Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. I'm going to try this again. We're talking about the wrestle. And I know that it sounds like I'm saying Russell, but the wrestle that the wrestle, yeah, how you wrestle with somebody, the wrestle that we have with life. That's what we're talking about today. You can heal what you're not willing to wrestle with. And that's what we're talking about all week. We talked about our wrestle with worth on Tuesday, which is our love of self. And then, we talked about our interactions on yesterday. And today we're talking about our focus, our wrestle with control. Okay. I hope that is, I heard myself say wrestle. So every time I say it, it's going to sound like I'm not really saying it the way I should. Listen, the wrestle with control. Listen, what you keep rehearsing is what you'll keep repeating. All right. So I want to ask you this. What moment from your past are you still trying to rewrite in your head? What moment from your past are you still trying to rewrite in your head? I'm going to go through this lesson. Yeah, it's not posting in the group, so I will have to just post it later. I'm gonna go on and go through the lesson though, so that we can, so that we can go about our day. So in today's lesson, we're going to talk about why your brain continues to confuse control with safety, how to really recognize when focus becomes fear, and why peace is found in clarity and not in control. You guys, why peace is found in clarity and not in control. All right. So again, my question is, how much of your mental energy is spent trying to prevent something that has already happened? Listen, some of us aren't tired from what actually happened. You know what we're tired from? We're tired from what we keep thinking about, right? After something happens, right? So it's our thinking about the thing that happens that actually drains us, right? And a lot of that thinking is our resistance to that. A lot of that thinking is our imaginary thinking of like, if I could have changed that, if I would have said something different, right? And so we will reel or play that thing over and over and over again. So we will replay the past like we can edit it. We will plan for the future like we can protect ourselves from that thing happening again, right? Like we're trying to control every part of life. So how the people that we meet will try to, like, oh, I'm gonna say this so that they can say this, all in a sense to control the situation or try to control what we experience. And somewhere in between what might be and what has happened is the what is. What is the present moment? And that is the part where we forget. That's the part that we forget we have. And that is the part where we hold our power. Okay, so in today's lesson, we're going to name that cycle. All right. And this is our wrestle with control, right? Why do we have this need to control everything, right? And why is our brain doing that? I met so many people, so many leaders, so many professionals, so many entrepreneurs who aren't just carrying responsibilities. You know what they're carrying? They're carrying scenarios, they're carrying stories, they're carrying beliefs, right? Their mental rehearsal about every possible outcome, thinking they're mentally rehearsing every possible outcome, really thinking that it's going to protect them from some disappointment, from some pain, from something that they just don't want to experience. But control is a false, it's a false, yeah, it's a facade, right? It's as if you can control your life, and we know that you can't. The only thing that you can get control over is clarity. How clear are you going to get about the thing that you want and desire? Right? By asking yourself certain questions. So this lesson is for the individuals who are ready to stop defending against the past and really start directing what their presence, right? And really start directing and rewriting their narrative so that they can experience something different, right? And that is where it starts, right? I think that we're trying to control the outcome versus really sitting in, ourself, right? Really sitting in life and getting clear about what it is we want and doing that work, and then allowing life, right? Establishing faith, right? And then allowing life to do what life is going to do. All right. All right. So here's my disclaimer for today. We're not here to shame. Okay. I'm not here to shame you for the coping skill that you learned. Over planning and overthinking were once your protection, right? It's what the brain does to really protect us from, or it thinks that it's protecting us. All right. But this conversation is about awareness. Awareness simply invites you to trade protection for peace, right? To trade off this thing that you think is giving you peace for evidence-based practices that truly will bring a sense of peace and a sense of clarity. Action is practicing this truth, right? One thought, one breath, and really one sentence at a time or one word at a time. And I'm going to add a boundary, right? I'm big on boundaries now and really establishing what your boundaries are, right? And why your boundary is there, and you really establishing that boundary. All right. And then my other disclaimer, I'm not your therapist, right? This is not intended to be a therapeutic one-on-one relationship. I would encourage you to go and find a therapist. If this is a discovery, educational, informational session, right? So if something in this session triggers you or makes you think, then I would encourage you to go find a therapist. This lesson is not created to create that therapeutic relationship with you. All right. It's here to just provide you with information and insight. All right. So good morning. Good morning. Good morning. It's Energy Audit Thursday. I have so many screens up in front of me, like four, right? So I have my Zoom screen, I have Facebook, I have StreamYard, which is YouTube, and then I have my notes. And if you see me going back and forth, because I have people in each one of these, but one I don't have is my group, right? And so I just want to make sure that I'm sharing this into the Facebook group because that is where we've been at for the last 135 or 133 episodes, and I just don't see it being streamed in there. And that is kind of taking me. And I know some people may drop off because I'm doing this, but okay, there we go. All right, so now I can share it in the group. Thank you, God. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. All right. So now, who is this session for? This session is for you if you can't sleep because your brain won't stop planning. This session is for you if you keep replaying every conversation, wondering what you should have said differently or what you could have done differently. This session is for you if you say, I'm fine, but you're really thinking about the next 5 outcomes, right? This lesson is for you if you need to know the next 10 steps, and that's why you're stuck because you're trying to control, how can I make that thing happen? And one of the things that I've absolutely learned in life is that if you're planning for a certain outcome, yeah, 9 times out of 10, that's not going to happen, right? We don't plan for outcomes, right? We can't, it's no way that you can, and I know that this sounds like, yeah, right. But especially in this healing journey, I think that you really can't not be outcome based. Okay. When you're trying to create an outcome, especially for someone else, how somebody else is going to feel, what somebody else is going to think, how they like, you're losing so much of your power and so much of your authority, right? We can have an idea, right? A vision of what we want to experience. But more importantly, I think we need to focus on the why. Like, why do I want this experience? Why do I want this thing? And really stop trying to control the outcome because that's where our biggest disappointment is. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't have expectation, right? Right. Expectation is, in a sense, it's faith, right? I'm believing a thing will happen. All right. But if you're believing, um, I'm giving an example. So you're believing that you're going to get to the corner, right? So that's the outcome. And you're believing the way you're going to get to the corner is the numbers 1, 2, 3. Okay, right. So once I see 1, 2, 3, then I'm gonna get to the corner. So that is the path that you have created to how you're gonna get to the corner. And say that, I don't know, letters come up like ABC. Another way, another method comes up for you to get to the corner, but you're like, no, no, I'm going to get to the corner 1, 2, 3. And until I see 1, 2, 3, that's what's going to get me to the corner. Yeah, that's not how that works. The goal is to say, I want to be at the corner, right? To really create that vision, but then let it go. Like, let the vision go, let that outcome kind of be there, and then allow life to come in, because life may get you to that corner in so many different ways, right? And it may not even be that corner. Like, you may think you want to be at that corner, but you may not. It's a corner that you want to be at, but it may not be that corner. And I think that we need to allow life to flow through us and go through us, but we have this need to control every element of life. And as a consequence, we're not really experiencing the life that we desire and deserve. Now, how can I say that in a very factual way? Because your life is finite, meaning you have not had enough experiences, right? Compared to the multitude of people, right? It's 7 billion people in the world. All right. You've had relationships with 2 or 3 or 10 people, right? So you have not had enough data to absolutely know what you want and what you don't want, to absolutely know what you like and what you don't like. Yeah, like, you don't have enough data for that based off of the 10 relationships that you've had, right? And so many of us are using that one heartbreak, that one letdown, that one time that somebody lied to you, and it hurt. I get it. It hurt your feelings. And we have allowed it to make us so calloused and generalize a whole population of people, and moreover, generalize who we are and what we can take and what we can't take. And it's just so unfair, right? It's so unfair to us as individuals that our minds, in a sense, does that, right? Because it really is a protective. It really is your mind saying, I don't want to experience that hurt anymore, right? I don't want to experience that level of pain anymore. So, what can I do to avoid it? Okay. And we're taking this limited amount of data that our brain has, and we're using it to navigate this big life, and we're cutting ourselves off at the leg by doing that. I'm trying to control every element. Good morning, big brother, big little brother, I love you. Good morning, Miss Hollis, I see you there. Today we're talking about control. So I got a question. What you keep rehearsing? I got a quote. What you keep rehearsing is what you keep repeating. Okay. What you keep rehearsing is what you keep repeating. So let's have this conversation. Oh, one more person this is for you if you're ready to stop micromanaging what God has already handled. All right. This is for you if you're ready to stop micromanaging what God has already managed. Like, I really sometimes am amazed at myself and other people at this need to control every element of life, right? In the sense of, like, we really think that it's going to protect us, not realizing that we actually are creating the thing that we don't want to experience, right? And it's such a vulnerable thing to let our hands go, to allow life to work, to allow God to work, right? That is a very vulnerable position that we have to learn how to do, right? So let's go into this conversation. Um, your mind will replay the past because it's searching for resolution. So, a part of, just by habit, your mind is going to rehearse the past because it believes that it can find the mistake, right? This is what your mind does. It believes that it can find the mistake and that it can prevent it from happening again. That's just your body's function. But control, you guys, is not safety, it's a self-defense. It's like a self-defense dressed up as logic. It's like your mind trying to protect you from experiencing a pain. But peace, you guys, it starts when you realize that you cannot rewrite what has already been recorded. All right. So you can't go in the past, okay, and change what happened. All right. All right. And I know a lot of us wish we could. What we do have the power to do, though, is we can go back in the past and we can extract from that situation the lesson. We can actually go back and find a different way to look at it, to tell ourselves a different story about that situation. Like, it's things that we can do with the past, right? We can change our perception on it. But the thing about it is that we can't change what has happened. And I think that we're spending so much energy, so much emotion wishing that we can do that, or we allowing our mind to do that over and over and over again. I once had a client said that if I can just figure out why they hurt me, I will finally be okay. That was her, statement. But closure doesn't come from knowing their reason. All right. Closure doesn't come from knowing their reason. Closure comes from really reclaiming your focus because the past can't be managed. It only can be understood. And I think that we have these, if I could only do this, in an attempt to manage what happened, what has already happened. And you cannot do that. The only thing that you can do is really come to understand what has happened, right? Accept it, learn to accept it, forgive it, do reconciliation if that's the case, right? And learn how to put your focus on your future. All right. And so many of us are focused on what happened in our past that we keep repeating it over and over and over again. So now, and I'm gonna give you an example. When I met my kid's father, I used to tell him, like, oh my God, you remind me so much of my mother. Right. In a sense, like I felt the neglect that I used to feel from my mom, like I would feel it in this relationship with my kid's father, right? And I noticed, like, oh, wait, that is what you are experiencing. Like, you are looking for that experience. And sure than a mug, like I was seeing it in him, so much so that I would say, like, man, it's just so crazy, like how much you and my mom are so much alike, right? Not really realizing that that was my narrative that I was imposing on that situation, or really what I was looking for. Because the truth of the matter is, my kid's father was nothing like my mom, right? He was very much a protector, a provider, right? He was very resourceful, right? Just a very different guy. But because I had experienced neglect and because my mind was looking to not experience that, I felt that when he would like do some things that I didn't like, and I had named it, right? Like, oh my God, you're just like my mom. Then the red light, or the, I don't know, green light went off, or the light just popped in my mind, right? When I met another individual after my kid's father, and I'm like, oh my God, you're just like my mom. Like, and it's like, wait, how am I keep meeting people who's just like my mom? Right. Oh, the common denominator was me, right? The common denominator was me. And it was my nervous system not wanting to be abandoned anymore, wanting to be seen, wanting to, be understood. And these were the things that I felt like my mom didn't have. And I kept running into that. So if that makes sense, put a heart in the chat. Another way it shows up, it shows up that way with my clients. Like if you have those aha moments where you're just like, oh my God, you remind me so much of my last boss. Oh my God, you remind me so much of my last boyfriend, right? That is your wound, in a sense, mirroring itself back to you. And it is your nervous system, in a way, trying to, like, in a way, protect you from it, right? So in those instances, guess what? Because you remind me of my mom, in my case, because you remind me of my mom, then I'm going to be mindful of how emotionally available I am to you. I'm going to manage how much, trust I give to you, right? So I'm going to start to, in a way, not show up fully or protect myself in this relationship. All right, only to experience a relationship that I really didn't want. Like I wanted more connection, I wanted more intimacy, I wanted more things, but I was so much in protective mode, trying to control and not experience pain, that I ended up, in a relationship that was very much painful. Okay. And this is why I created the stop and now method, because I realized what I realized was that it wasn't just me doing that. Like my clients was doing this, right? The books I was reading, it was these patterns in it. these patterns was happening. So this thing that's happening in our nervous system is so important for us to understand that, yeah, that we are, in a sense, creating the very thing that we don't want by trying to control, right, what happens and what doesn't happen. All right, so here's another real life example. I remember a season. No, I had a client that said, I remember a season that I thought my hypervigilance was discernment, but it was just fear wearing face clothes, right? So, in a sense, my client felt like her hypervigilance was her ability to like move and do things, right? Was discernment, like, oh, God is telling me to do this, God is telling me to do that, but it really was it was fear, right? Um wearing or looking like discernment, but it was this movement that she was having, or these messages that she was getting, that would really was protecting her. All right, and that protection ended up being like an imprisonment in her life. All right, so I want to go into our mirror moment. I want you to ask yourself, what moment are you still trying to control by overthinking it? All right. Is it in your relationships? Is it in your finances? Like you've been broken, you don't want to be broke again? Is it in your relationship with your family, right? Like, I'm not going to get too close because I don't want them to do this again. Like, what is those moments that you keep thinking because you don't want to experience them again? And while you're doing that, I'm going to give some facts about some facts that you can remember. One, that control is an illusion. All right. Control is an illusion. And I would venture to say that clarity is your power. All right. Trying to control every outcome is your brain's way of avoiding uncertainty. All right. And there's so much uncertainty in this thing called life. All right. That is the whole reason for us having faith, right? Because we're not certain, right? We can only hope for a thing and believe that it will happen, right? But we're not certain that the thing is going to happen. And when control comes in, that's us trying to establish certainty. But life is not certain in that way. All right. So it's your brain trying to control the outcome. And trying to avoid uncertainty. But control is a false sense of safety, you guys. It will it will only, or it will still unfold outside of your plans. Like, life is still going to happen, right? How it's going to happen. It's not like looking at your plans like, oh, we can't do this because Sheila doesn't want that to happen, or we can't do this because Ro doesn't want this to happen, or we can't do this because Taquana doesn't want it to happen. No, like, life is going to happen. And because life has so many intersections, and life is lifing for so many thousands of people, right? And it's like this butterfly effect. Have you ever heard of a butterfly effect? Certain things just has to happen so other things can happen. All right. So clarity, though, on the other hand, it's the thing that grounds you. All right. It helps you to see what's real. It actually helps you to choose your next step, and it helps you to manage or release what you cannot manage. In a sense, it's like the serenity prayer. Give me the strength to control the things that I can, and give me the knowledge to know the things I can control, the things I can, and I don't know, the wisdom to know the difference between the two, right? Because here's the thing, and this is why I talk about faith a lot. We definitely need to have a level of faith, even in our uncertainty, because no matter the weather, no matter the storm, you're going to have to continue to put one foot in front of the other. And you're going to have to continue to walk this thing called life. And I think that we want like the perfect weather. We want the perfect, perfect timing before we do something. And it's like, no, like, you got to go to work even in the cold, right? Like, we're coming from summer to winter. And like today I went outside and I'm like, oh my God, it's cold. And like, I have like this allergy that's coming up. My eyes are swollen in the morning. My throat is sore, right? So I know that that the weather is changing and something is coming up in me. are trying to come out of me, right? So in that case, like, but I can't, even though sometimes I don't feel like, oh my God, like my body is sore, like, but I have to get up and keep putting one foot in front of the other. And then there's times where I rest, right? And this is, I have like thought partnerships. And a lot of times in those thought partnerships, those are the times where I'm holding a space for individuals who may not have that ability to do that on their own. So I'm reminding them, like, hey, it's time to get up. It's time to get, not really get up out the bed, but like, hey, you can do this thing, right? As a coach, I'm serving as that, that reminder of who you are and what you can do, right? And really helping individuals to be able to take that next step. But here's the thing, that part right now, that part is not control. You being clear that every day I got to get up and wash my face and, do my act, that's not controlling life. That is you creating a rhythm that your nervous system can trust regardless of the outcome of life. Regardless of what's happening in life, you're going to get up and you're going to have a certain rhythm no matter what's happening. And that is what the nervous system is looking for, your rhythm, no matter the weather, no matter what's happening. And unfortunately, we're not giving our nervous system a rhythm, right? Because life is happening. And as life goes up, we go up with life. And as life goes down, we go down with life. And then as life turns backwards, then we turn backwards, right? And it's like, no, you got to find a direction that you're going to go, right? If you're going straight forward, go straight forward. Even when life going to sideways, it may slow your straightforward down, but you got to still go straight forward, right? And then if life goes backwards against you, then maybe you pause for a second, but your intention is still to go straight forward because you are very clear, all right, that this is what you need to do. All right. And so you don't need control to be safe. You need clarity, right? You need the clarity in the direction that you're going and creating that rhythm. And that is that cadence. That is what's going to create the confidence that you're looking for. All right. Number two, overthinking is your mind's way of really managing unprocessed emotions or undigested emotions. So when you haven't felt the sadness, the fear, the anger underneath, your mind will start to pick up and start to spin and start to spiral. All right. And those mental loops is the brain's way of trying to solve a feeling that actually needs to be felt and not fixed. I had a client yesterday that I worked with, and I mean, I just, saw her looping, right? And so she's like, yeah, and she's just, she'll feel it and then she'll, step out of the feeling and start looping. And I was just like, yeah, I think that, and if you've worked with me, you know that I have this way of allowing you to talk and process and all of that. And then, like, right at the cuffs of it, it's like, okay, so can I offer you my position or can I offer you this? And then once you say, yeah, it's like okay, this is what it is. And for me in that moment, it was like, yeah, you're just not trying to feel right now, right? Like you are wrapped up in your thought process, right? And what your thoughts are trying to do is get you to not feel the emotion of hurt, right? It's trying to not get you to feel that. And I just want you to know you're safe to feel that. And so let's drop into that emotion. All right. Once the emotion is acknowledged, you guys, we learn how to breathe through that emotion. We write down or we can journal about it and we speak about it. Guess what? The loop, right? It loses its power. All right. And then your thoughts start to calm when your feelings are actually heard. But so many of us are caught in a thought loop because we don't even know how to feel or we're so scared of our feelings. And as an emotional strategist, I just want to tell you that that is where your power lies. Feel the hurt. Allow it to, feel the joy, right? I just want to let you guys know that, and you may have heard me say this before, your feelings only want to last 90 seconds. Yep, a minute and 30 seconds. 60 seconds and 30 seconds. However you want to put that, right? 90 seconds, right? An emotion wants to last. You know why people are stuck in emotions for days on days on days? Is because we feel sadness And then as soon as we feel it, we jump out of it, and then we have a thought about the sadness. So it's like, I can't even believe that person did that. And then that disbelief creates another emotion of awe or disgust. And then it's like, man, I remember the last time they did that. And then that now creates another thought that creates more sadness. And I can't believe I'm here again, right? And so it's like this dance between the thought, the emotion, and then the emotion and the thought, and then the emotion and the thought, and the emotion and the thought. And then before you know it, you become a witness of your mind creating all of these stories, right? These narratives, and then you're trying to feel them, but you can't really feel them because your thought pops back in. And so now you're just in these shoulda, coulda, wouldas, and what they did and how they did it and what happened and all of that. When truly we can just sit with the feeling and breathe through it, and we can witness the thoughts like cars driving by. Like, I see you, but I don't have to entertain you, and know that I'm safe in this emotion. All right. And that is a learned ability. And that's why we get therapists. That's why we get coaches. That's why we get these individuals to teach us how to be with these emotions and feel safe in that. Because for far too long, you've been in experiences where you didn't feel safe in your emotion. All right. All right. Number three. All right. You don't need to predict peace. You can practice it. All right. Peace isn't a reward. Peace is not a reward for when everything finally works out. And I think that that is what we think peace is. Like at the end, right? Peace is going to come, right? It is a rhythm that you can access right now, right? Right now, through your breath, through gratitude, through prayer, through pause. Every time you return to this present moment, right, you are practicing a sense of peace. And peace is in a sense like I'm accepting and allowing what's happening. All right. Right. So you can't predict how tomorrow will go, but you are able to decide right now how you're going to accept this moment. And a lot of us are not even aware of this moment because we're so fearful about what is going to happen tomorrow, what's going to happen on Friday, how am I get my bill paid, and on next month, how am I do this, and we're not even like present enough to even hear like a download or even an advice for right now of how to even live it right now. So much just came up for me, like the manna of the day, in the Bible, it talks about how people, took their manna of the day, right? And you wasn't supposed to basically store this for tomorrow. Like, I'm gonna feed you today. I think that there's also a Bible verse that says, take no worry for tomorrow, right? For it will handle itself. But so many of us is worried. And I find myself in that. And then I have to like, look, Sheila, take care of today. Like, that's all we have control over is this moment, and choose in this moment, right, to be grateful, right? Choose in this moment to find some peace, right? It may not be where you want it to be, meaning you may want peace in your relationship A, and maybe your relationship A is chaotic and you're not going to find peace there. But you may have peace in relationship B. And if you want to use relationship B to extract your peace from, then that's where you find peace at. And that's where you take your focus, and then you start to focus on that. Well, what am I grateful for? I'm grateful that I have my breath. I'm grateful that I'm able to speak. I'm grateful that I can, call a friend, right? It's so many things that you can be grateful for. And then you start to fill yourself up with that. That shifts your focus, that shifts your emotions. When your emotions start to shift to gratitude and peace, then that actually starts to change, right? Your interactions or what you're attracting, if we want to use that word in life, and the type of situations you're attracting. All right. So again, you don't predict peace. You can practice it. Peace isn't a reward for when everything finally works. It's a rhythm that you access right now with your breath, gratitude, prayer. And every time you return to this moment, you actually are practicing peace. So you can't predict what will go on tomorrow, but you can decide what will happen today. All right. Number 4, trust is built by safety, not certainty. All right. You don't trust because you know exactly what's going to happen. That is not what we trust. You trust because you know you'll be okay no matter what happens. I need to say that again. I think, again, we're trying to create trust in this way of knowing exactly, even when we trust people, right? In a sense, right? Let's think about trusting people. I'm trusting you to go do A, B, C, D, E, right? And I need you to do A, B, C, D, E because what I don't trust is if you don't do A, B, C, D, E, I won't be okay. That's really what you're communicating. All right. And that is not trust, right? That is control. Here's what trust is: no matter what you go out and do, I'm going to be okay. All right. So I would prefer you to do A, B, C, D, E. But if you don't do A, B, C, D, and E, guess what? I'm going to be okay. Because that is what trust lies. It lies with you. And a lot of us don't have this trust, right? And so we're trying to control outside variables because we don't trust that we're going to be okay. And so the only thing that we can trust is if you do it like this. All right. And that is why we're so fragile. That is why we have so much anxiety. And that's why we're over emotional or feel like we're over emotional about things, right? Because of this uncertainty. But I just want you to know that, listen, you don't trust because you know exactly what's going to happen. You trust because you know that you'll be okay no matter what happens. And if you don't feel that way, then get a coach, get a therapist, get the help that you need so that you can regulate your emotions and that so that you can, no matter what is happening in life, you're going to be okay. Listen, safety emotionally, relationally, or spiritually allows your nervous system to relax enough to trust again. All right. Certainty is wanting this external control, all right? But safety, right, is this internal confidence, right? That I am safe. And so this whole mantra of I am safe, I am safe, I am safe at this grown age of an adult, I am safe is not woo-woo, you guys. It is truly so that your nervous system know that no matter what I go through at this grown age, as called an adult, I'm going to be okay. And some of us can't trust that because we haven't practiced it. And so we've told ourselves, if they do this, I ain't going to be okay. If this happened, they ain't going to be okay. I don't know what's going. No, you're going to be okay. And you know, I know you're going to be okay because life has shown you you're going to be okay. You have been through a lot, the ups, the downs, the lefts, the rights, right? And you're here now. All right. Now, you may not be here the way you want to be here, but you have the faculties, the ability to create the life you want, right? For your future, if you're willing to do what you need to do. All right. But please know that trust is not established by knowing exactly what's going to happen because life is a life of uncertainty, which is why we have faith and expectation. All right. And the thing that we need to know is that when your body starts to feel safe, then guess what? Then faith that we want to establish, that will start to feel natural and come more natural. Okay. All right. And then number 5, surrender doesn't mean doing nothing, you guys. It means stop fighting with what already is. You know, I think that we look at this word surrender as like, oh, just don't do anything. No, that's not what surrender is. It doesn't mean doing nothing, you guys. It means stop fighting with. It's in the sense of like allow, just allow. All right. I always say an example is the the roots to a tree have to surrender so that the trunk can take forth, right? So the trunk can grow. At some point, the trunk has to surrender its process of trunking so that branches can come. All right. If you look at a flower, right, at some point, the stem of a flower has to surrender itself so that the rose petals can grow. If we start to look at surrender in that way, then we see that surrender is not about doing nothing, it's about allowing, right? It's about allowing. So a person, when we think about surrendering, it's like stepping back and allowing, right, life to flow through us flowers to blossom, for life to flow. And so many of us are not surrendering and allowing this process to happen. So surrender is active acceptance, you guys. It's saying, I can't change the moment, but I can choose the posture, the position, and the perception that I take on in this moment. All right, that is where my power lies. So fighting reality keeps you stuck in resistance, but surrendering, it moves you into peace and possibility, you guys. It's not about quitting, and surrendering is not quitting. It's cooperating with the true healing process. It's cooperating so that the true healing process can start to take place. And a lot of us are not surrendering because we think that surrendering is like, oh, I'm waving my white flag, and I'm just like, I'm giving up. And it's like, let's change that language. Surrendering is, I'm allow you to go. I'm allow you to move, God. All right. All right. In short, control exhausts you. Clarity has the ability to empower you. Peace isn't found in prediction. It's practiced in the present. And truth grows where safety lives. And then in surrender is how you finally breathe again, you guys. All right. And so here's some insight that I want you to know, that you're wrestling with your need to control is, in a sense, the false safety of predicting pain. All right. So you're wrestling with your need for control. That is the false safety of predicting pain, right? In a sense, I think that we're trying to control to avoid this thing called pain instead of seeing pain as a part of our life. All right. Because what you focus on, it actually grows. And so when you start to control for pain, what you're doing actually, right, is you're actually allowing the possibility of pain to happen. I mean, the possibility, you're actually increasing the probability of you experiencing the pain, because what you focus on grows. And when you focus on control, you feed anxiety. All right. And peace actually requires, not say peace. Yeah, peace requires your presence and not a prediction. And again, where your attention goes, your energy flows. So if you're creating a life like of the things you don't want, like the pain, like the certain outcomes, but that is your focus, and basically you're saying, hey, I am going to create and control um you know how this thing happens, so I won't experience this. And you're wondering why you continue to experience this, like, why is this keep happening to me? It's because your focus is off. You're trying to control for pain, to not feel pain. You're trying to control to not get let down. You're trying to control to for things not to happen to you. And those things are the elements of life. When the truth of the matter is, we should be building ourselves from the inside and trusting that no matter what pain I am going to experience, this miraculous, beautiful body that I created is going to be able to digest it, process it, and we're going to get through it. Right? And no matter who comes in my life and leaves out my life, I'm going to be okay. Right? And no matter what has happened to me, right, it has only made me a better person. Right? Now, the things that happen to you, they have the ability to make you better or bitter. All right? Because for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So there is an opportunity for you to look at the bitterness that of the things that happen to you. You can look at that because there is some bitterness. I'm not saying that does not exist, but there's some bitterness too that you're overlooking, right? We talk about post-traumatic stress, but we don't talk about post-traumatic growth, right? That some people actually, trauma has made them more resilient, has made you, more present, has made you a lot of things that that not having or that pain did, that actually created strength in you. But but we don't want to look at that. We want to look at, the bitterness and the reason why to be bitter. And we just want to control, we want to stop, we want to learn how to stop it, right? And stop doing that, right? And really start to see how these situations has made us better and how can I change my focus on that and stop trying to control my life in a way that's going to stop me from experiencing something that just by the mere fact of me creating a life like that, I'm going to experience it anyway. All right. All right. So I have a testimony from a client that said, when I stopped analyzing everything, my creativity came back. All right. And then research shows that overthinking activates the amygdala. The amygdala is that your brain's alarm center, keeping your body in fight, fight, or freeze, where mindfulness and trust actually shifts, activity to the to the prefrontal cortex. And when that happens, restoration, calm, and clarity comes. So truly, just relaxing and breathing brings about a calm and certainty and trust in the body. Okay. All right. All right. Um, so let's get to the framework. Today we're talking about focus, you guys. Again, where your attention goes, your energy flows. And so many of us are focused on, I'm just gonna say the wrong thing. All right. And a lot of times I think that we make we focus on the wrong thing until we focus on the right thing. Right. Right. Like so much so that you're gonna focus on the wrong thing so much. You're like, what is wrong? Like, why does this keep happening to me? Eventually to the point where you're gonna be like, okay, I need help because I'm doing the work, I'm journaling, I'm going to the therapist. Like, why is my life not showing up? Right. So eventually, focusing on the wrong thing will get you the right thing. Or we can accelerate the process, right? Or we can just say, what am I focused on? Right? What am I focusing on that is getting me this outcome that I'm having? And if you're noticing that you're focused on the things you don't want, the more contracting things, you're more trying to protect your life. You notice that you don't really feel emotions, right? That you more thinking things. If you notice that you're blaming or pointing a finger at everybody else and you take limited responsibility, for your life, then therein lies, you know, part of the problem. So here's 10 things I need you to know about wrestle with control. All right. Control is a trauma reflex. All right. It's not a personality trait. Control isn't who you are, right? It's who you learned to be to survive in chaos. All right. So control is not who you are, it's who you learn to be in chaos. So when life once felt unpredictable, your nervous system decided, it made a decision, right? Like the board of all of your board members or your members in your body said, we're gonna make a decision. If we manage everything, we'll be safe. That's what your nervous system did. All right. And that's why we don't want to judge it because it just went into survival mode. So we're going to try to control everything. That reflex kept you alive then. All right. For that environment. But guess what? It's keeping you anxious now. All right. So we need to find a different way to live. All right. Number two, overthinking is emotional avoidance disguised as strategy. I often listen. If you notice that people say, like, what do you think about that? What do you think about that? Or what do you feel about that? How does that make you feel? Right. Not what do you think, but how did that make you feel? Oh, that made me feel that, that person they know, that I can't trust that person. Well, that's not a feeling. How did that make you feel? Well, it just made me feel that, you know, yeah, that I can't trust people and that people just gonna be them. That's not a feeling. That's a thought. How did it make you feel? Well, it made me feel sad, right? It made me feel angry. All right. So let's talk about that, right? Right. These are the feelings. But you notice how if somebody asks you how does it make you feel, you can go into a thought. We don't want to go into thoughts. We want to go into feelings because that's where our power lies. All right. So overthinking though is an emotional avoidance disguised as strategy. So your brain spins not because it's broken, but because it's buffering feelings. It's trying not to get you to feel that thing, right? Because we have messaged to our bodies that our feelings are unsafe. All right. All right. And because we haven't digested those feelings, then the mind goes into a buffering of the emotion. Okay. I say that I'm gonna give an analogy of what I think it's like. Have you ever ate like a tough steak and you just can't swallow it? Like you're chewing in, you're chewing in, you're chewing in, and you're just like, yeah, like I cannot, if I swallow this, like I'm going to choke, you know? Right? Or have you ever like ate a chip or something and then you swallowed a piece of it by mistake and you felt it like cut like your throat, right? And so it made you slow down, right? Right? So this is what I think that happens with the emotions. Back to the steak one. When something is tough mentally for us to chew on or think about, right? It's very hard for us to digest that emotionally. And so I really do think our job is to make the steak tender enough for us to emotionally consume it. All right. And so when we say stuff like I can't believe, right? Then that is like a tough steak because you are literally resisting whatever's like, I can't believe that this is happening. I can't believe that they would do that. I can't believe. And what that is creating is an emotion that is not digestible because the thought is not digestible, right? And then your thoughts start to reel and reel and reel and jump and jump and jump and trying to justify why you can't believe it. Like, I was just over there, like they said this, like it's trying to support the disbelief, right? Now, I'm not saying to say I can't believe this happened is wrong to say. I'm just saying, hey, can we find a different way or something different to tell you so that we can start to feel it, you know? And so a quick way is just like, how do you feel about that? You know, right? But a lot of times because we don't want to feel, we go into I can't believe, why would they do this? You see, all of those questions trigger thoughts, all right? So again, your brain spins not because it's broken, but because it's buffering feelings that you haven't yet digested. All right. So it looks like it's planning, it looks like it's strategizing, it looks like it's helping you through the process, but it's really protecting. All right. It's protecting you from fear, from grief, and from shame, right? Because feelings first, com- because feeling first calms the loop faster. Feeling first actually calms the loop faster than thinking ever will. And I know that we don't believe that. But if you just go on and feel that thing and allow yourself to learn, because I say feelings is a skill set. Some people may not agree with me, but I feel like feelings have to be a skill set because you have to learn how to feel, right? And so it's something that we develop over time. And if you grew up in a very traumatic environment or just an environment where people didn't know how to feel, like they only knew anger and things like that, then now you have to start to introduce these feelings into your life. And that's just a new structure, a new way of being. And that's a skill that we have to learn. All right. And so that's why I show the emotional wheel a lot of times, right? So which one of these feelings do you feel, right? To give people language for that. And if you haven't seen emotional wheel, you can just go to Google it, like emotional wheel, and look at all of the feelings that you have and think, okay, what did I feel about that situation? Because feelings first actually calms that loop, that thought loop, faster than any thought would. All right. And as an emotional strategist, I just feel like we need to get back in touch with our feelings. All right. And so many of us are so stuck emotionally constipated because we're not allowing the feelings and we're controlling, right, through our thoughts and how we think about a thing. And we're holding grudges in our thoughts. We're holding beliefs in our thoughts. We're holding narratives in our thoughts that's stopping us from being able to feel. And it's just a protective mode. We don't have to judge it, right? But if we want a different life, then we need to be able to feel differently. Number three, planning is healthy. Perfectionism, though, is fear in a business suit. Okay. All right. So planning is healthy, but perfectionism, that is something that that can become unhealthy. See, healthy planning creates structure, but perfectionism, it actually chases control, right? And it actually creates procrastination. Like, so I told you on yesterday, like a big part of self-awareness, right? And that emotional, so I did the study, emotional intelligence and procrastination, right? And in this one area, self-awareness, what I noticed was that people who had high levels of emotional intelligence tended to have to procrastinate more. And it was because of this sub-level self-awareness. When people have high self-awareness, they tend to what? Procrastinate more because they're aware, right? And so we need to balance the house, right? Remember I talked about that yesterday. So perfectionism, right, um, is very different than planning. All right. And a lot of times we can plan for something, but even in your planning, you notice that there is a healthy plan, there is room for error, right? When you budget, there's like a miscellaneous budget for just if something happens. When we plan in our time, we allot time just in case something happens, right? Right. But sometimes in perfectionism, there's no room for error. All right. All right. So planning says that I'm preparing, and perfectionism says that I'm still not good enough. Right? And so I need to make this better and look better and be better and, you know, all right. So here's the thing, do your part, then allow grace to finish the rest. All right. Planning is your part, right? And then allow life, grace, like allow life to come in and do the rest. Number four, the need for certainty is your nervous system response. Um, your nervous system's response to past unpredictability. All right. So again, if you grew up in instability, your body equates not knowing to danger. All right. That's just what the body did. All right. You didn't know where your next meal was going to come from. You didn't know if the lights were going to be on. You didn't know, if there was going to be danger in the next room. You didn't know. You just didn't know. And so that not knowing, right, was equated to what? To danger. All right. So that's why uncertainty at this grown age of an adult now, it feels like panic, not curiosity. All right. Because what you learned in that uncertainty when you were younger. But as an adult, we need to learn how to pause and breathe and retrain our nervous system to see the I don't know as safe, all right, and not a threat, because the I don't know is more like a curiosity, right? I know that the bill will get paid. I just don't know how it's going to get paid, right? And I'm curious to see how my mind is going to come and, do this. I know that I will find love, right? I know that it will happen, and I'm just curious to see, right, how that's going to happen. All right. All right. Number five, worries rehearses the same pain that you've been trying to avoid. Don't worry, be happy. That's the song. Why? Because every time you imagine the worst, your body releases the same hormone as if it's happening. I really do want you guys to know that the mind, right, it doesn't know the difference. So if you're worrying about something, your body is experiencing the situation as if it's actually experiencing a situation. Okay? So the thing that you're worrying about, you're actually imposing that on your cells, right? And it physically is not really happening, but it's happening in your nervous system. All right. So this is why worrying is not healthy, because every time you imagine the worst, your body releases the same stress hormones as if it's happening. And you end up reliving what you're trying to prevent, right? You think worrying is stopping it from happening, but worrying it is actually creating it, making it happen, because it's actually sending the body into that state, right? Which is attracting more of that. All right. But here's the thing, peace isn't found when we prepare for pain. Peace is actually found when we can get present and trust that no matter what happens, I'm going to be okay. All right. No matter what happens, I'm going to be okay. And we learn how to trust that. You say it today and you may not believe it, but you keep saying it. And then you keep looking for evidence of it. And then the more you look for evidence of it and you establish faith, then the more you start to see that no matter what happens, I'm going to be okay. All right. And you can go back and look at evidence of no matter what has happened, you are okay. Now, again, you may not be quote unquote where you want to be. All right. But is that because you're paying attention to the wrong thing? Because your focus is on what you don't want and not on what you do want. Number six, hypervigilance doesn't prevent pain. It prevents peace, though. All right. Scanning every situation for danger keeps your mind in high alert, you guys. And so many people are hyper vigilant, worried about what's going to happen wrong. All right. The vigilance may reduce surprise, you guys, but it also blocks joy. All right. So you can experience serenity and suspicion, right, at the same time. All right. And so many of us is not experiencing joy, serenity, like intimacy, right? Because we side eyeing, right? We're so looking for what's going to happen wrong. We're so in fight, fire, freeze that we're not even experiencing like joy and happiness. Okay. All right. And again, that may be a learned thing. And if it is, right, then I would encourage you to go seek help. All right. Number seven, and mind you, it's a learned behavior. Like if you grew up in the neighborhood that I grew up on 4th and Johnson. Before that was 13th and Lapeer. All right. Before that, it was 14th Street. Okay. Right. So I grew up in communities where there were a lot of violence. So we heard gunshots and, saw fiends walking up the street and just like saw fights and, right. So there was a natural need growing up in those environments where I felt unsafe. Right. Now, when I was in those environments, I didn't think that, right? Because it was just what we did. We locked the door, we, locked the boat, like it was it was like the mind just knew what to do, right? Like you heard gunshots, you laid on the floor, right? So this was just the natural thing. Now, when I got older, what I realized was that same kind of distrust, right? That I felt as a young girl, like, oh, having to lock the doors and, feeling like if somebody gonna come, I don't know, stuff that I heard when I was younger, hit me in the head, whatever that was, right? Those narratives kind of stayed, right? Which made me in my 20s a little more hyper vigilant, right? A little more looking for the danger. But what I realize is like I'm looking for that in my relationships. I'm looking for that, in my environment, right? And it's like I don't want that, right? I don't want that. So what is it that I want? I want peace. I want to trust people, right? I know that God didn't only make me the only person, the only trustable person. And I tell people that like, you can't trust nobody. I hear people say that, my clients and friends, and I'm like, oh, do you believe that God only made you as the only person that you can trust? Like this is not a true statement. You can trust people, right? You're not the only person that God created that you can trust. However, because you grew up in an environment where you couldn't trust people, you're looking for the people that you don't trust and you're focused on that. And so now you see more of those people, which basically jades, right? Jades your thought process. And now it becomes like you can't trust nobody, but you can trust people, right? Now, are there people that you can't trust? Sure. But there are people that you can trust too. All right. So hypervigilance doesn't protect you from pain. It just prevents you from having peace. All right. So we want to be mindful about what we're focusing on. Number seven, surrender isn't passive. It's a proactive, it's your pro. I talked about this earlier. It's a proactive trust in your preparation in your divinity. All right. Surrender says, I've done my part and now I'm a place, I'm at peace. I'm allowed to rest, right? So it's as if I've done what I was supposed to do. Now I'm a surrender, like I talked about, the stem, right, surrendering so the flower can bloom, the roots surrendering this process so the trunk can start to grow, right? The branches surrendering, right, so the leaves can grow. All right. So if we start to take on that mindset of what surrender is, we surrender is not giving up, it's allowing. All right. Number 8, the mind quiets when it feels safe. All right, and when it feels sure. All right. So certainty is the external illusion. And I always tell people like I live in this life, but externally like uncertainty, right? But safety is this internal condition, and I've learned to be safe, right, in the uncertainty, especially being entrepreneurs, right? We're looking for certainty. Building a business that makes a difference, that can yo-yo. 1 month could be good, 1 month is like not good. We lose contracts, we gain clients and things like that. And I used to, in the beginning, in my 30s, when I first started the business, there was a lot of uncertainty, right? But it's learning how to feel safe in that and realizing that you don't control. There's minimum control that you have on the outside. So certainty is very much a external illusion, right? Because anything can happen. All right. Anything can happen. So we need to start to feel safe, right, on the inside. When your body knows that it's protected, guess what? Your thoughts will naturally start to slow down, and peace will come from the regulation, from your emotional regulation, not from the perfect answers, not from the perfect life, not from the perfect things. There's a peace that even comes when you get it wrong, right? Because you know that, all right, I got it wrong, I can get it right. All right. Number 9, gratitude shifts focus from control to contentment. So gratitude can shift your focus from control to contentment. Listen, you cannot obsess, all right? You cannot obsess. You can't obsess and appreciate at the same time. All right. Thankfulness actually grounds your brain in the present moment. All right. And it tells your nervous system we have enough. All right. We have enough. And gratitude is the quickest route back to peace. Now, I do know that some people have this thing, well, like, I'm grateful for coffee, but I want more coffee, right? Like, you know, am I saying I have enough when I really do want more? Well, know that life is an appetite, right? Like, so you saying that I'm full today, right? It doesn't mean that you're not going to get hungry later on, right? It's just acknowledging the fullness of this moment, right? And just like an appetite, you eat, right? Your body digests that food, right? If you ate breakfast this morning, your body's going to digest that. And then later on, you're going to be hungry, right? And you're going to eat again. And then you're going to get full again. But if you never acknowledge the fullness, right? Then you're going to be insatiable, right? Like it's like no matter how much you eat, you never get full. And that's how we treat life. Right? Like no matter how much life is happening, like there's never a fullness, as if we're running away from being full. Because once I acknowledge that I'm full, then does that mean that life is over? No, it just means that in this moment you're full. And then now life can digest it, get what it needs, right? Only to allow you to get hungry again and take up experiences and take up love and take up great conversations and take up moments of growth and things like that to fill you up again. And if you have to do that 12 times or 24 times, or how many hours is in a day, right? 12 hours or how many minutes, you can do that. And it's still not going to stop life from giving, right? Giving to you. All right. So this whole idea that, being grateful in some way, the conflict that I've heard people say, like, I'm grateful for my car, but I still want another car, guy. Okay. But you're full with the car that you have now, right? And as you start to communicate that, you're directing your energy to get a better car, and that will happen too. It doesn't, they're not in conflict with each other. Your dinner is not in conflict with your breakfast. All right. All right. Does that make sense? If that makes sense, put a heart in the chat. And then last but not least, letting go. Letting go means losing. Letting go doesn't mean losing. It means freeing your focus for what really matters. Listen, release doesn't erase your care. Okay. It just redirects it. All right. When you let go of what you can't control, you actually start to reclaim your energy for what you can start to nurture, which is your peace, your purpose, and in the people in your life. All right. And so many of us, our energy is wrapped up in things that we can't control, that we don't even have the energy to nurture, right? The things that we can. Right. So let's call back our energy so that we can start from the things that we can't control. So we can start focusing on the things that we can. And you absolutely have control over what you choose to focus on. All right. And what you choose to be grateful for on today in this moment. All right. All right. So a summary is that control exhausts and clarity empowers. Letting go isn't giving up, it's growing, you guys. And freedom starts the moment you trust that safety. That safety comes with alignment, not control. All right. So let's go into our biblical wisdom. If that made sense, put a heart in the chat for me. If you like this, make sure you share it. Right. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel at I Am Shaping Solutions. DM me for the journals. Those journals should be coming out on Friday. We're just fixing a link. So Miss Lady or Sal will be getting those journals to you. So make sure you DM me if you want the Way We Carry journal. You can get the digital download, or you can get the physical copy. I think for $12.99. You just pay for shipping is free. You just pay for us to print and ship those to you. All right. Our biblical wisdom: cast all your anxiety on him because he cares for you. That is 1 Peter 5:7. So casting does not mean ignoring, you guys. It means releasing the weight. All right. It's a divine exchange between fear and faith. All right. So the God in you is not waiting for you to be perfect, you guys. The God in you is waiting for you, waiting for your permission to carry what's heavy for you. All right. That you're saying, hey, I surrender. I give this to you. I'm going to allow you to take the reign. All right. So the God in you is waiting for you to release, right? To, in a sense, surrender that. All right. Neuroscience supports this verse by saying releasing control calms the amygdala, right? And starts to engage the parasympathetic nervous system. When that happens, guess what? You start to get the signal of safety. And science and scripture agrees that release helps with the regulation. Helps with regulation, okay? Your promise verse for today: the peace of God, which suppresses all understanding, will guide your heart and your mind. All right. This is Philippians 4:7. All right. The peace of God, which suppresses all understanding, will guide your hearts and your minds. Listen, peace doesn't come from knowing every outcome, you guys. All right. This is the interpretation. Peace does not come from knowing every outcome. It comes from trusting that you'll be guided through each and every one of those outcomes, though. All right. Whether it's what you want to experience or not, okay, you will be guided through them. So this peace, the peace guards your mind, literally protecting you from the cycles of fear when you allow that. All right. And neuroscience supports this verse by saying meditative prayer and gratitude activates meditative prayer and gratitude activates the prefrontal cortex. All right. Reducing rumination, which is that when your thoughts ruminate over and over and over again, and anxiety. So when you can go into a meditative prayer and you practice that and you go into gratitude, then this reduces rumination and anxiety. The biological experience of guarding your mind. And that is the biological experience of guarding your mind. Okay. All right. Now, I do want to talk about meditative prayer and gratitude for a minute, because I do feel like when we first sit down to meditate, right, what happens? The voices get louder, right? Right. It's like I can hear that more. And in a sense, it's like your kids are saying to you, do you really want to sit down? Is this what you really want? Right. And so we just um have to know that with practice, right? Not that these voices are going to go away, but with practice, right? I'll be able to manage them better. So I don't want you to think that you go and sit down and meditate today, that, that in some way, right, this is going to happen. This is doing it over and over and over again. You'll learn to not, in a sense, hear those voices as loud and, witness them as if, if you ever sat on your porch and you saw cars drive by, right? Like you see the cars drive by, right? But then there's that one car that you like see it coming and then you like follow it all the way down the street, right? So it's going to be some thoughts that you do that with, and it's going to be some thoughts that just kind of, in a sense, pass by. And you learn how to stay on the porch, though, right? As the thoughts pass by. And that's what meditation teaches you, right? And when you learn how to disconnect like that in meditation, then you learn how to start to do that in life, right? So in a sense, I'm breathing, right? I'm focusing on my breath. I'm seeing the thoughts. Sometimes those thoughts catch me, right? And I forget that I'm breathing. I return back to my breath. I don't judge myself. It's like, oh, wait, Sheila, you was breathing. Now you start thinking about folding your clothes and stuff. Go back to breathing. I go back to breathing, right? And then now I'm thinking about the life lessons and how did that go today and how many people did it impact and all of that. And then it's like, oh no, Sheila, you was breathing. Come back to your breath. And I, without judgment, come back to my breath and I start breathing, right? And what that redirecting actually teaches me is when I start to work, right? So meditation is so important because with that activity of coming back to my breath, and learning how to come back to the breath and learning how to come back to the breath, what that has taught me is how to come back to. All right. And that life will send you off. So if I'm in a conversation with somebody, we started off talking about A, now we're all the way to Z. I know how to come back to A. So what we were talking about was this, right? And I don't judge going all the way up to Z, but we just want to make sure that we cleaned up A. So let's get back to what we were talking about A. And I found I'm very good at that, whether it's in a session, whether it's with my friends or not. And other people who meditate find that the redirecting, being able to redirect back. So if I'm writing, a book or doing something, it's easy for me to come back and close that out and finish what I started, right? And meditation helps with that because it's teaching you redirection. All right. All right. So again, neuroscience supports this verse. The peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds because meditative prayer and gratitude activates the prefrontal cortex, which reduces rumination and anxiety. All right. So my anchoring question to you today is, how does releasing control allow your body and your mind to finally feel safe? All right. So let's put today's work into practice. I want you to catch one control-based thought today and replace it with gratitude. All right. I want you to practice pushing. I want you to practice pausing before reacting, right? Breathe until your body softens. All right. And just now, are you breathing? Right? Just take a conscious breath. All right. And then number 3, speak one sentence of truth. All right. I can handle what comes next. I want you to speak one sentence of truth aloud. I can handle what's next. Your journal prompt for today: what moment from your past are you still rewriting in your head? And then your affirmation for today: I release the need to control what already is complete. All right. And then your intention today: I choose presence over prediction. Okay, I choose presence over prediction. And then your bonus challenge, if you want that, is for the next 24 hours, refuse to rehearse the past or predict the future. Anytime your mind starts looping, whisper, I am safe right here. If you have to tell yourself that every hour, like when I first started saying I was safe, like right now it's a workout with Tank. I don't work out with Tank anymore at 9:10, but I would create uh these little prompts and they would actually go off at my phone. And one of them was I am safe, right? So just like I just picked up my phone and it said a workout with Tank, right? It would say I am safe, right? I have one that says I love you, Sheila. I am safe. And people will ask me, or even like I am enough and things like that. But people will ask, like, why do I have these things? And I have to tell people, like, I know my background. I absolutely know I come from a disadvantaged background. And I know that it's my responsibility. If I heard 300 negative things about me, it's my responsibility to put 3,000 positive things, right? And if that's using this device called a phone to do that, to remind myself, then I'm going to do those things, right? To make sure that I am good, right? And that I can truly trust whatever life throws me. All right. All right. Your call, your challenge, and your charge. What truth are you walking away with? Your challenge, pause. Okay. Pause once today before trying to fix something and just breathe. And then your charge, you already know, go shape your life, right? With trust, as with truth. No, with trust as your focus. All right. With trust as your focus. And your closing reminder, when you can release, okay, when you release control, you don't lose power. You actually regain your peace and your motivational takeaway. You can't control what's behind you, but or predict what's ahead, but you can choose peace right here in this breath and in this moment. What I want you to know is that, well, one, if this session resonated with you, right, and you are walking away with insight, make sure you drop a fire in the chat. All right, let's celebrate our growth. And if you want to, you can join the growth membership at SheilaLittle.com/life. And remember, if you can shape it in your mind, you can have it in your life. I want you to know I love you. I love you. I love you. Now, tomorrow, we're going to be talking about wrestling, the wrestle with our bodies for Self Validation Friday. Know that we typically don't come on Friday, but because I didn't do a Monday one, so I'll be on tomorrow, which is Friday, for the wrestle in our body as we wrap up this week, the wrestle with life, as we're talking about the weight that we carry in our life. All right. So I love you. I love you. I love you. And I will see you tomorrow for that life lesson. Till later.